waited friend.
This is why we've always worked so well together, because you are that guy who's very methodical. You've got to know everything that's wrong before you know that it's right.
It sounds like Geddy went through loads of experimentation before deciding on the final arrangement. Let's look at some hypothetical abandoned ideas and why they didn't make the cut. The opening deconstructive riff sets up the call and response backwards by putting the single note walk up first. For a hypothetical, I lopped off those notes so that it just starts on the chord. So take a listen. It sounds pretty good, almost sounds normal, but it diminishes the impact of the full band coming in. It removes that moment of surprise because there's no reversal of the reply to the call. And you may have noticed that the first chord alternates between staccato and legato. I didn't need to make my own staccato variation because Rush played it that way on their Moving Pictures warm-up tour as they were testing the new material out. They wrote a lot of the songs of this era during their soundchecks. Notice anything else different? They play 4 reps over 8 bars, not 3 reps over 6. To my ears, both changes improve the intro significantly, being shorter and more interesting. Let's talk about the riff, all 5 variations. If you stand back and look at this structure, you'd expect this hook to be everywhere. It's actually in less than half the song. It's one of the oddest things about Limelight that this defining riff is played for the last time before the second chorus, and it never returns. 4 minutes and 20 seconds, and the riff disappears halfway through. It doesn't even end the song. You'd think they'd maybe bring it back as a reprise at the end. No, it's used as sonic sorbet, employed quite minimally, really, despite having so many different variations on it. 5 variations in less than 2 minutes. I think if it was played the same way every time, your ear would just go numb to it, because it is pretty simple. While researching, I found this delightful clip of Rush at soundcheck playing the wrong version of the riff during the opening. Really, it's life's in misplaying since he's the defining difference. Maybe he was just warming up his arpeggio hand. Since the riff starts on the same B5 as the verses do, not to mention the verses melody ending on a B note, it's fair to question, do we really need the riffs at all? What if the song didn't actually have the riff? Well, it turns out you can go through the song and edit out almost all of the riffs, and it flows, sort of. Riffs 2 and 4 turn out to be the irreplaceable ones. I was able to remove all instances of 1, 3, and 5. It's a wild ride, actually. The chorus to verse transition is okay to my ears, but the rest are train wrecks. This exercise really underscored how important the riff is to the song. It's doing yeoman's work in terms of keeping the verses and choruses together. The brilliance is making it the most catchy part, so nobody notices the heavy lifty it's doing to keep the song coherent. Let's look at riff number 2. All it is just a little 8th note displacement. So what if they didn't use that displacement? What if they decided to just let that last syllable hang and just play it standard? 2 reps of riff 3 instead. Yeah, it's a subtle but palpable thing. Separating that final syllable from the band's entrance just really hurts it, and the riff kind of feels repetitive. Why does the verse have 2 grooves in 6/4? Wouldn't it be easier to unite them into a single unified groove? 12/8 is the same grid as 6/4 but played as triplets. All they'd need to do is just adjust the melody for the new accent pattern, lose those 2 accents in the middle, and tweak the final break.
Living on a lighted stage, approaching the unreal. For those who think and feel, in touch with some reality
It doesn't work, I think, because it's too far from the riff's groove. 3/4 time is less different, and Peart can play twos over it, whereas in 12/8, when the riff kicks in, it's like being shot out of a cannon more than a satisfying release. And those two accent hits are much cooler than the sing-songy lilt. The next what if involves the chorus, and that weird 7th bar of arpeggios and a time signature change in the middle of the chord loop. What if we ironed that out a bit? Start the 4/4 when the pattern begins and adjust the vocal timing accordingly. Figuring out how to put this together took an entire afternoon. I had to find a cappella vocals, shift the drums around, borrow guitar parts from the middle, put it at the beginning, and then move the drum fills around in a way that felt natural. And then you have this extra bar at the end where you need an extra line to make the whole thing come out even in the wash. Basically following the 3-bar pattern with the 2-bar phrasing, and you end with 3 1-bar phrases. So following the repetition of the Asian rhymes, I came up with a few rhymes to plug the melodic hole, because it definitely needs to end with underlying theme, which basically meant deconstructing the song entirely and then rebuilding it up and then remixing it. For shits and giggles, in mad scientist songwriting, check this out. It's very strange.
Living in the limelight, the universal dream for those who wish to see. Those who wish to be must put aside the alienation. Get on with the fascination, the real relation, the patient, the underlying peace.
It kind of sort of works, but not really. It's technically more normal, but it just doesn't sound as good. Doesn't breathe right in some odd way. While researching, I looked up covers of Limelight, and I was surprised to find that there are not actually all that many. I thought it'd be interesting to see how many variations of the arrangement other artists had come up with, but everyone's doing it very faithfully, especially, of course, the tribute bands. There are a surprising number of acoustic covers of it. The most interesting of those turned out to be Billy Corgan of the Smashing Pumpkins, who did a 12-string live acoustic and had a lot of interesting variations in terms of the rhythm. He adds beats throughout the song, seemingly arbitrarily, just sort of letting them breathe, and it creates some very interesting stops and starts, which is very cool, in my opinion. Check this out.
and those who wish to see, and those who wish to be must put aside the alienation, get out with the fascination, the realization, the underlying theme, the realization, the underlying theme.
The chorus ends with Geddy singing in G-sharp minor arpeggio into the original arpeggios, but what this example supposes is maybe he didn't? Listen to this. It's harmonically constant and kind of neat in its own way. I think it'd be fine, but it doesn't give you closure. It doesn't give you that introspective feeling that the arpeggios do. And that's important to the theme of the song, that if you had ended with the riff, it's just too triumphant. It would basically feel like, okay, problem solved. By bringing that back, it's saying, no, this is a recurring problem that's not going to go away. On to the solo. Now, the solo is the showcase, of course, but it's so long. It's insane how long it is. It's almost a quarter of the entire running time. And it's harmonically static. It's an interesting question. What if Rush had gotten cold feet and not trusted their instincts? Or maybe Terry Brown, their producer, said, why do we need a solo in this? This is Neil's statement, and Lifeson sat out. Imagine, if you will, a Limelight with no solo. It's a little brain-breaking to think about it because it's Lifeson's signature solo, but it's really easy to edit it out. This was the first edit I did, and it took me about 30 seconds. Just take a listen. Well, I guess it works. It's kind of cool. The flying brick instead of arpeggios is a great transition for a double chorus. Makes the structure a little more classical. Shortens the song by a huge amount. That was really one of the biggest shocks of this research, is discovering a 4-minute and 20-second song is only 3 minutes and 30 seconds without the solo. It speaks to, I think, how dense and efficient they made all the other parts of the song. It's only 4 stanzas, and that doesn't overstay its welcome. The flaw with cutting the solo is that while it's kind of cool in that classical structural sense of a double chorus to end the song, it just doesn't support the theme of the lyrics, and it has no mood at all. It's just pro forma. It works musically, but not deeper, and it makes no statement. Finally, as the band drives from the final chorus from the solo, Peart, the drummer, is faced with that classic prog problem of playing straight time against an odd number amount of odd metered bars. So he chooses to retrofit his 4/4 pattern so the kick hits on Living in the Limelight, but because that section is 7 bars of 3, he has to flip the beat again at the end of it. Hypothetically, he could have just drummed straight through, but it would have put a snare on the one of Living in the Limelight. It would save him an adjustment later, coming out even in the wash, but it would work against the beat. It would draw attention to itself. When Living in the Limelight comes in there, it's cool because it feels so natural. It would violate the naturalness and the surprise of that great moment. I think it'd be too flashy. I think it's too proggy. I think it distracts from the melody. And I think the band's mandate in this era was to show their artistic restraint and tastefulness. So I get why he didn't go for it. I'm sure he thought about it. In the end, he chose to prioritize the melody. So you may have noticed a pattern by now. The consistent thing behind the choices has been to amplify the lyrics and the feeling behind them. When Rush had a choice between 2 equally cool options, they always took the one which suited the emotions and the mood and the lyrical themes the best. Solo is probably the best example of this, being almost indefensible on paper considering the amount of time and space it takes, and yet being one of the best musical passages of their entire career. I should point out that this is pure speculation on my part. I've been unable to find any explicit documentation, interview, etc., where they go into this level of detail about the origin of the song and the song parts and the arrangement. So this is just a theory. that I've done my best to vet with the data we have. Form follows function in songwriting, and it's really interesting to me to reverse engineer compositions like Limelight where they don't really feel that weird at first, and it's when you start digging in that they just get weirder all the way down.